How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Did you okay now?
Well, not entirely. I've been going to the doctor for a month now. I did four teleconferences, which she made me do this to myself, and that, and I said, I'm a good girl. She's given me about 6 medications. Right now I'm taking something, amoxicillin with some sort of acid.
Oh, this is still trying to get over the junk.
The junk in here, the bronchial tube. And then I went to see her, and my wife was affected equally. She did us both at one time, and she gave us another medication, and now 2 days ago I called up and she sent me 2 more medications. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm doing they call it the pack that comes on a card. It's got about
Z-Pack?
Yeah.
You need to jump on the... Also a friend.
I didn't get any friends.
Well, okay, you're an acquaintance. That's a good point.
I'll be your friend.
No, I'm looking for... Would you be my friend, Jim? Won't you be my neighbor? Anyway, having said that, I was after he accused me of marriage.
Have you had any discussions?
Not since they filed their application. Before, because he was...
Morning, Joe.
My wife is a school
Let this go a little longer?
Yeah, I'm going a little longer.
Yeah, looks good.
I would say that,
I mean, I'm not going to
prior
go
to
like
the application,
Then you won't have to knot the tie.
that you had discussions,
Yeah, general.
general
Okay,
discussions.
just for...
And then let the county attorney, or if she's here, or somebody else say that you would have to excuse yourself.
I don't see a problem. But I just wanted to be sure.
Our biggest problem now is we got a clock that don't work.
I'll be back in 2 minutes. It's 8:52. Yeah, so you're
Show up. Only person on the side of you is me. Chuck Dixon will be on there. So I'm trying to figure out who we were missing. I would hope so.
She moved him over so he
And
could
we
truck
have
all
no,
over.
we have no,
I haven't met you. I'm Bob Sherry. Frank?
Is Stacy coming?
yeah, she's supposed to be here.
He's one of our new planners. So
Let's figure.
yeah, this is his first time coming.
We'll find out.
I am. I believe I'm the first one. Don't be too nervous.
I've been doing this nebulizer.
He's got extensive experience down in Pinellas County. So
It's taken over my life.
he had to
Medication and just smokes. I feel like I'm vaping. Sit there and watch TV and you can't hear things.
Are you feeling better? Huh? You feeling better, or is it
I'm
just?
feeling better.
It's
When I
the best
cough,
3
it
words
sounds
I've
like
learned was
coughing. I'm not coughing a lot, but before I started
Or I know already, yeah.
waking up coughing in the middle of the night.
Huh?
Yeah, it's not good.
Oh yeah.
Good morning, Stacy.
Stacy, how are you?
Really good, actually.
Good.
And you?
Good.
Good.
Really good. How do we dictate that?
Having a good week.
That's good.
It's probably
We've had some battles, haven't we?
How
And I want to tell you, I appreciate
I woke up with a surprise today.
when the secretary's over there, you give them to the secretary.
I went to bed at 11. The 7 states are still there sticking out.
if you're a good neighbor,
Can't do it. I
just
kept on
help
saying
your
it because the
neighbor.
windows too. It's out. And I wake up at 5 in the morning coughing a little bit. I'm gonna check my phone. She's checking.
I know, that was too much.
I missed that.
With a happy picture and everything.
Yeah, I don't know,
No, actually, it's probably better than being on the Chronicle front page.
and what you expect. he doesn't.
Is that right?
Just like
Yes.
the first time we won. Who the hell played that?
Was it?
That's what it was. What the hell that?
It's either one way or the other. Right?
Tuesday. Yeah, it's election day. No, he's very complimentary of her.
No, we got some people here. I think this is because of the racetrack thing.
No, it's probably for the campground. No, I don't expect anybody to be here against
I
that.
didn't.
Okay, stop. I tried to turn you off, not on.
It's over by the racetrack is over by the gun range.
It's a shame.
By Ansel.
I hate this phone so much. You know what? I hate it so much when I turn it off. Screw you.
It's chilly in here today. I guess I'm just used to wearing my jacket. One or the other. Might be the same temperature.
I'm assuming I'll be able to figure out how to use the slide button.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, what? Oh, yeah.
Sir?
Is it almost time?
Almost.
Okay, what'd you say?
I'm assuming I'll be able to figure out how to use the slide button up there.
It's got a little arrow on it. Just use the arrow.
Am I in the right seat?
Top one you hold and it like does that little blow up thingy. And then the big white button is the regress one and the one below that is go back. So highlight and go backwards. So, super simple.
Of course, she told you to try to ask yourself out the
Oh,
door.
thanks.
That's my purpose. Get away. Just in case.
Yes, you did it on purpose.
No, you have no idea what they're about to do to people. They're about to do to people.
Sir, you can't pass anything out. No, it has to go through the attorney.
Structures out there, and then he didn't adjust those.
Morning.
What are these? Okay.
What, I'm sorry, what's that?
Okay, just wait until you speak, and then you can pass them out then.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to read them now anyway. Noise standards didn't address it. So that's a question. How are they going to
Taking
address
bike stuff right now. Getting trouble.
Yeah.
unless it's just
Minus replacement cost, depreciation, cost of, cost of improvement.
Is that really our only?
And then
that's all I really had.
divided by the number of value.
Okay.
Oh, I know. Yeah. It's just, I don't think people are prepared for it, right? Stop saying that. One meeting at a time. Thank you.
I saw the coolest pen.
That was last.
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
today, and then tonight.
Oh, we saw that. We got, yeah.
And he had like a lever.
And
He
6 land
pulled
use
it down and the lever
applications.
moved
I
this
thought
way,
there was
moved that
7.
sprocket, which moved the
There's
whole
6.
system.
I know, I think there
Like
was.
something like that.
That actually
Super
sounds good.
fancy.
Yeah, for some, I wanted to look at that stuff, and for some reason we got distracted, and so I wasn't able
but now
to
there's
look
Yeah,
at
he
it.
had really some really cool things. Like $60.
Late night. Well, I'll be at a hockey game.
Really, really didn't need to say that.
Yeah, tonight. While they're watching 6 501s.
Your name is on all of these.
Why?
I don't know. I guess because you're
Yes, actually, at Homosassa Park, by the Homosassa Library, there is a recreational hockey league of sorts. I don't know who does it, who's on it. Good morning. It's okay. That's in our basket or more conferences.
Well, she's made a lot of Stephanie and Dawson. They've just started doing that.
Good. Okay. I just figured if he got an electrical permit, then he's good to go.
So I gave her the address, so she actually pulled
The
it up
importance of
pictures and they had calculations.
Okay.
So, they've come a long way because,
Chuck, how are you? Good. Have they been to everybody's house? He's out of the shadows. You said there was 10,000. Oh, yeah.
You're over one.
they're going
by the way.
It was educational.
Okay, good.
But the second was
Did I?
How exciting.
Cheese, can,
it's a mess.
Oh, yeah, I put it there.
I have it.
Oh, yeah.
I can't bring myself to go down there.
they didn't put Stacy's name on there.
Yeah. I haven't been down there.
They left you off.
They keep bringing
Oh, yeah?
stuff out.
Are you all ready?
I'd like to do that. I'd much rather go to a hockey game. I'd rather be here than
Oh, yeah, you have to go also.
Especially at 9 o'clock.
I know, I said, where did the
or 10
attorney go?
o'clock or 11 o'clock.
She probably,
Stacy may be home before you are.
That
Probably will
happens
be.
when the Pine Ridge thing.
Really?
I listened to it the whole way there, throughout the game, the whole way home. And we listened to the end after we returned home for like another 45 minutes.
Hockey would have been so much better, even the way they're playing.
It was something like 11:30 or 12 o'clock.
It's like they're just
Everybody ready?
psychologically, I guess, cleaning the house, literally.
Good morning, this is Citrus County Planning and Development Commission hearing for November the 7th, 2024. If you'd like to join us at this time, I invite you to please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, please give us the grace to be understanding, patient, and tolerant. With these attributes, we can conduct our business in a manner which will be pleasing to Thee, our county, and its residents. In the Lord's name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you for the courtesy of the applicants, the board, and those around you at this time. If you can place all your cellular devices on silent or mute. And for the board sitting here, the clock in front of us is an hour off, so we won't be paying much attention to that. May we get the roll call, please?
The following Planning and Develop Commission members are present. Chair Richard Varmez, James Royce, First Vice Chair, Michael Facemeyer, Robert Shera, Kurt Stone, Stacy Worthington, and School Board Representative Chuck Dixon.
Thank you. If any person decides to appeal any decisions made by the commission with respect to any matter considered at this hearing, he or she will need a record of the proceedings for such purpose. He or she may need to ensure that the verbatim record of the proceedings is made, which records include testimony and evidence upon the appeal is to be based. During the public input portions of the meeting, individuals are giving 3 minutes and representatives of an organization is given 5 minutes. When anyone wishing to speak comes to the podium, please complete a yellow form and hand it to the recording secretary, and please print your name, address, and the number of the application for which you are speaking on the form. The yellow forms can be found at the podium by the front door. If representing an organization, the letter of authorization must accompany the speaker. Comments will be limited to the topics being heard, so please state your name, spell your last name, and give your address for the tape record. Now, this time, I'm going to open up the podium for an opportunity for the public to come forward to address this commission on any issue that they wish, and that's for anything other than any application that's going to be heard today. So the podium is yours. If anyone wants to come up, anybody got anything to say? All right. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting down.
They think
I understand.
they're not understanding. They think they're talking about the applications.
Yeah, when the applications come forward, when we speak on an application, then you can come up and speak on that application. This is for anything other than the applications being heard today. Thank you. I hope that a little bit clearer. All right, well, thank you for that. That portion is closed. We don't have any minutes to approve. Do we have any staff announcements?
No staff announcements. Our county attorney has stepped away, so we'll go ahead and go into ex parte communication. If any board members have any ex parte, I'm sorry? Oh, there she is. No, I'm perfectly happy, Stephanie, you do your job. You're good.
Thank you. With regard to the applications on your agenda today, have you had any ex parte communications? And we'll start at the end with Mr. Dixon.
No, ma'am.
Site visits.
Site visits, plus one of the applicants is my neighbor, and my wife is a past volunteer for SCORE, and I have general knowledge of this, plus I watched the video of the Board of County Commissioners meeting last week, and I'm familiar with it from that perspective as well.
Okay. Well, I also watched the Board of County Commissioners meeting, but other than that, none.
Site visits, and I did watch the county commissioners meeting last week also.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, now it's time for application number CU-2024-00009. John Hatfield. The applicant's present. If you can please make your way to the podium while we get the staff introduction, please.
Thank you. This application is a request for a conditional use to allow a radio-controlled car racetrack. This is an aerial view of the subject property. This is looking north on South Coffin Point. This is looking south on South Coffin Point. This is looking across South Coffin Point. This is a view of part of the subject property. And this is the site plan submitted by the applicant. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So, are there questions for me? Or?
No, just please state your name and your address, and
All
then give us your presentation on the purpose of your here.
I understand. So, my name's John Hatfield. Last name, it's Hatfield. Address 2817 South Coffin Point.
Excuse me.
Please, in the audience, if you can please hold your conversations down to a minimum, please. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No
Mr.
worries.
Hatfield, please go ahead.
All right. Again, John Hatfield, Hatfield. Address 2817 South Coffin Point, Lecanto, Florida 34461. So the proposal is for a hobby shop in the garage, basically where you saw that near that garage. That's where the little hobby shop's going to be. It's basically a trailer, you know, it's mobile, and the idea is just to present a racetrack for the community. There's a large community of RC enthusiasts, and a lot of times they set up at nearby parks, and they'll use the parking lot as like a racetrack, or you know, a kind of a gathering. Either way, what I met the buddy of mine, Matt. He's also with this, Matthew Johnson, and he's the owner of the hobby shop. And I presented my property to him to say, hey, if you'd like to put a racetrack here, you know, by all means, I enjoy it as well. So the idea is to have a community racetrack where someone can come either rent an RC or purchase one and use it, or bring their own and have somewhere to, you know, basically play with these RCs. That's the proposal. So one of the things that we are working with is the FPL easement. We're trying to stay outside of that, obviously. And I do have a lot of trees on that one, I guess you would call it the west side of the property, the west border. So I don't plan on taking trees out. I'm kind of the Lorax. I love my trees. So we're going to work around things. I do have two other open areas for a future expansion that is outside of all these easements as well, for maybe another track. But that's the idea right now, is to put a little track just to bring, you know, families over so they can play, kids can play, somewhere to play with their RCs. That's basically where we're at. It's very minimal. It's just a shop where you sell them and a dirt track where you play. There's no further structures. We've talked to the county. We know the requirements. We're gonna have to put some parking spots, you know, little things like that. There were some buildings in question on the property. So I had a shipping container that's now gone because it wasn't allowed. And then I had 2 carports that I had to put in permits for, and I did. So everything's permitted now. There was another building. It was kind of a military. I'm retired military, so I'm also a disabled veteran. So, but I enjoy collecting things. So I had this military expandable shelter, and I needed permitting. Anyhow, got rid of it. So I kind of checked all the boxes, so there's no issues on the property, meaning, you know, something that's permitted or not permitted to be there. So everything that's there currently is permitted, and this is my buddy Matt Johnson. He's the hobby owner.
Yeah.
He's gonna be running it, he's gonna be taking care of that. I'm the property owner, which is basically saying, hey, you wanna come do a racetrack, so you can do your stuff here. Anyhow, I'm gonna give him the floor, if you guys don't mind, let him speak on this, his part.
Hello, Matt Johnson, Johnson. The address for the project is 2817 South Cawthon Point. I'm going to be heading up the remote control car division of the property. The rest of it is basically just going to be nature. So in the natural element of it, the racetrack is very malleable. It's not going to be a concrete raceway with super big lights, and overall it's going to be an electric raceway, so that it's going to be silent. It's going to be mostly during the day. I'd say on the weekends there could be events, but I've seen the times that we have available. We're usually all in bed by that time, so I don't see any issues with people reporting that they seen the permit number and said anything. So I feel that the neighbors are in agreement with it. I've spoken with the Outpost Range probably 2 or 3 times. They're okay with more people going down that road, because as of right now, it's residents and the people that go to shoot. So they're okay with a little more traffic, and I told them that it would be, you know, menial at best. So a couple things that were mentioned were setbacks and things like that. The racetrack, like I said, is very malleable. So if setbacks are asked, they're the basic same setbacks of the 30 by 40 metal building, and they're not going to move very much ever, but they are malleable. So if we have to move, it's dirt. So the substrate will be clay, very movable. A couple of the other things were the buffers, most of which are going to be natural and already there, but we're willing to work with whoever we need to add or take away from, whatever is necessary on the buffers. The parking, I basically, when I made that drawing, I think I misspoke on the size as a 12 by 20 or 12 by 10 by 12, something like that. They're all going to be regulatory. They're all going to be 12 by 20 or 10 by 20, whatever's mandated. And signage, I know I didn't put anything up there. It's going to be basic signage, something like a vote for me sign, something like that, with a little banner on the front, and it'll be inside of our property. So I think I've touched on all of the questions that I've seen on the pre-application email. And I think that's all I have.
All right, does staff have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, sir. I know you touched on it just real briefly with this being electric, but how much noise would something like this generate, and how do you plan on mitigating that noise?
So the mitigation will be through partial, you know those fences, a 6-foot chain link that has like a mesh? Some of that is going to be incorporated on the turns, which is the majority of the racetrack. This is a big oval, so the majority of it is going to be a turn, very little straightaway. We're going to impose that for safety reasons so the cars don't fly off the track. That in conjunction with the vegetation, which you can see on this photo. I kind of zoomed in on a drone photo. The vegetation towards the southwest side is very thick. I mean, it is huge. And the electric cars, I mean, at best,
Also,
they are
there's
silent.
There's a highway,
Oh, yeah, and we
right
have
behind the
highway,
property.
yeah.
There's a highway which is gonna overrule any noise we can put out there.
They are almost silent. It's like
Yeah.
a Tesla. The Tesla puts a speaker on their
To make
car
noise.
to make sure that you can hear it because it's that quiet. The RC cars basically follow that same memorandum.
Okay, and have you read the conditions in the staff report, and are you agreeable with those? And specifically, there's one, it's number 10, talks about hours of operation.
Absolutely. I did read those, absolutely in agreement with it. And like I said, he's a veteran. I have a RC Citrus group on Facebook. 375 members, I'd say 25%, maybe a little less, is all veterans. So early to bed, early to rise, that is kind of, the majority of my friends are in bed way before that time.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you, Joe. All right, does the board have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Worthington.
Good morning, guys. I don't know what radio-controlled cars are. I get that they're like, I get what they are, but how big are they? Is this a big,
So there's a
like
couple
little
scale
toys?
numbers.
Yes, toys.
Scale
Okay.
numbers. So if you had a one-to-one car, you had one car sitting here and there was another one next to it at the same ratio, 1-to-1. These are scaled down, most of which are down to 1/10 scale. So if you had a 1/10 scale RC car, it would be this big. You can get about 30 of them together on the track, and it looks like little ants running around in a circle.
okay.
So a remote controlled is radio controlled. RC is the abbreviation for that. And way back in the day, it was a remote controlled car called the slot car. And it brought smiles to a lot of guys. And the technology has only gotten bigger and better. And the hobby really grew up during the 80s, but it really exploded at COVID. And all of my sons and I, we travel all around the state to these big, huge races that are in different cities. And it's kind of like an unspoken hero that gets kids off the games and into a situation with real consequences and real trophies. So.
Awesome. Do you see the requirement that you're gonna have to do stormwater management, and do you understand what the county's asking for as far as that's concerned?
In reference to the buffers, I understand that much, but as far as
The impervious surfaces?
No, so like
Runoff.
stormwater management, where you'll have to capture the rainwater onto the property, so you'll have to do some work on the property to do that. Do you understand that?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. I noticed that, we will be making indentions in the ground and maybe some berms, and I didn't read the actual specifications. Do you have those with you? Is it gonna be something outlandish that'll be a big project?
Actually, what engineering says is that they'll have to review it for any new impervious surfaces. So
Sure.
like if the track, I'm assuming, is gonna be paved somewhat, so you're gonna need to compensate for, put an area in where stormwater is going to be compensated for that track that you add.
Yes, ma'am.
They can work with you, you can use some materials that are a little easier than others, but she's alluding to the fact that you're not just gonna be able to do it,
Got
you're
it.
gonna have to have some stormwater
Yes.
compensation as well.
We factored that in during the application for the impervious surfaces. We factored the racetrack surface area. We factored all of that in. And of course, we'll work with, whatever we have to do to maintain that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Facemeyer.
I just have one question. You touched briefly on parking. Can you point out on your plot plan up there where the parking mostly would be?
Yes, sir. It would be, is there okay, there we go. So, how do I point now?
Top button.
Top button.
Top button.
You might have to point to that screen.
There we go. At this point, this is where we're suggesting the parking should be, and it'll be directly in front of a carport. And we're also in question of, do we need a pervious surface for our parking, or could we implement rocks with the undergarment being plastic to keep them in place? We're basically, we're open for input there too. This is my first project like this.
But yes, the parking will be right there, in front of that carport.
Yeah, my only concern would be that when you do the parking area, that you would make it large enough for when you have one of those very successful meets and you have a lot of vehicles show up on a Saturday
Yes.
morning, and doesn't spill over on the.
There will be overflow parking. There will be. There's basically a service road that goes around the entire property, and anyone could park along if needed.
Yeah.
If needed.
I know it's a very rural area.
Yes.
But
I
still,
wouldn't
people
imagine.
go to the shooting range
Oh, yeah.
and residents, so.
Yeah, there'll be an overflow for events, right?
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Commissioner Shara.
Good morning.
Morning.
This looks like an interesting project. The reality is that you're gonna be sandwiched between the Suncoast, a shooting range, a mining area. So ideally, you should be in a good location, but there is a residence there about 500 feet away, I believe, if I recall. The issue is gonna be noise and sound. Noise and light, excuse me. The noise could be an issue as a nuisance. You need to be aware of it. You need to make sure that you're doing what you have to do to maintain noise levels at the property boundary. So that the people who do live in that area don't have to, if they don't enjoy your hobby, they don't have to live it.
Yeah.
And the other is the lights at night. Now, you're saying you're not going to operate at night, but the application and the report does address lights and how the lights must be designed. So you need to be aware of those things. You said this is your first time.
Yes.
So there are obligations you're signing up for to work with the county in terms of reports and drawings and certifications and, parking lots and impervious calculations. So you need to know, eyes wide open, what you're going into. But you're in a good location from that perspective, technically. Just have to be, good with your neighbors.
Yes, I'm very familiar with my neighbors, and I've spoken to them about this. My neighbor's Douglas, the closest neighbor I have. I have one neighbor. Everybody else is beyond.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the commission?
Just a quick question. What about the bathrooms?
Well, at the moment, we don't have a plan for bathrooms on site, so they would have to be off-site at the moment. We do possibly, we're thinking about mobile, like they use at events, a trailer that rolls in. We're thinking about something like that in the future.
It? All right, I have a couple of questions. Is there a fee to use this track, or is it free to anybody that wants to come out? How's this program work?
It's a pay-to-play operation. It could be similar to the Outpost Range in the respect of a year membership, but it's a club mentality where it's a pay-to-play operation where you can pay your dues and have a year of playing without putting your wallet on the table.
All right, so with that, you have a business license or a license to conduct this business?
Yes, sir. So as of right now, I'm the owner of Johnson Family Exchange in Citrus Hills, and we're going to be switching that over to Johnson Family Hobbies. As of right now, the business called Johnson Family Hobbies isn't anything other than on that board. As of right now, I'm still a pawn shop owner that has a hobby shop inside of it. So maybe doing business as will be something in my future.
All right, then my last question is, I just want you to touch base on, is your signage that you said, is it just gonna be a removable sign, a permanent sign?
It will be
lighted sign?
A 4x4 posted wood sign that's just sitting in the ground with a conventional banner on it, front and back.
All right, any other questions from the commission? All right, seeing none, appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we get the staff to come forward with their presentation, please.
And I'll introduce you to Frankie Pyland. He is our newest planner.
Frankie?
Yep.
Welcome, Frankie.
We're good, Okay, thank you.
Frankie.
Good morning, Commission. Good morning. So as we see, this is
Please
under...
state your name for the record, sir. We're gonna start you out right here.
Frankie Pyland.
Thank you.
So as we see, this is a conditional use application under CU 2024-00009 for Mr. John Hatfield. As we go through this, we're going to see that the subject property is located on South Cawthon Point. This is in the Locanto area of the county. The property itself is approximately 5.23 acres. However, let me rephrase that. However, there's about a 2.2 acre section of the property that's designated as an easement. That area is more or less off limits to the racetrack or to this development because it's Florida Power has the easement to it. When we look through this, to the east of the property is going to be the Suncoast Parkway, as well as that easement that Florida Power has. And then when we look to the west, you have a sand mine directly across the street. Directly to the south is a single-family property, but across the street from that property is the Outpost shooting range. So there's a lot of commercial activities happening in this area that can impact different types of noise and different types of elements that could be relevant to the business. When we go on to the next slide, we're going to see here that this property is in the extractive district, which allows for mobile homes. And then when we look just past the Suncoast Parkway, we're going to see that there is a greened out area. That's the Withlacoochee State Forest. Moving past that, we did a lot of research when we were presented this application to see what kind of structures were on the property, what this was all about, what the property would be used for. And at the time, we found that there were a handful of structures that either needed permitting or removal. And so we did our due diligence, advised the applicant, and since then they have pulled multiple permits, you'd see on both of these slides, to make sure that the structures that are there are in accordance with the ordinance. So they've done a good job of getting themselves in the right direction to put this business. When we look past some of this information, we'll see out from the street view that there are the two structures that he referenced. There's a large garage type structure and then a carport next to it. Directly in front of those structures is where he's requesting to put the parking lot. And to the south of the garage structure, that's where the racetrack is supposed to go. Just bearing in mind that behind that garage structure is the easement, so it wouldn't be allowed to go back that way. It would have to go towards the south. This goes back to the standard site plan that he submitted. He's showing the different types of structures, and again, we've seen permits for a lot of that. When we look at compatibility for this racetrack development, we'll find that most of the area in the surrounding property has non-residential usage, which including the mine, shooting range, you're gonna have the parkway, and then the property directly to the north, it appears to be vacant land, but it's owned by Duke Energy. And they basically use that for an easement getting in and out of their easements along all the other properties. So it doesn't appear that there's going to be any development directly to the north of them that would impact a residential characteristic. And we've put a handful of different proposed conditions into the application to try to ensure, just like as the commission has advised, things like noise, things like lighting, those would be addressed, such as the hours of operations that we put into the conditions to try to regulate that so that neighbors wouldn't be disturbed. Okay. I think that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Does the applicant have any questions for staff?
No, thank you.
All right, does the board have any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Worthington.
do we typically permit commercial, I guess this would be considered a commercial operation, I don't know actually, without restrooms?
The restrooms would be something that would come into play as part of Florida Building Code. So when this does go through a process of permitting, that would be something that we would look at.
They'll have to put them.
Again, it would be in accordance with Florida Building Code, but it's the best of my understanding that that is something they're going to look at.
Okay, thank you. Do you have the permit numbers for the unpermitted structures?
I have the main one. I know a lot of the structures that were removed. However, there is a permit under BLD 2024-333-877, and that was for two large carports, the 18 by 41 carports, which is one that we showed, if I could go backwards, to the left of that garage structure. That was one of the carports, and then there was another one towards the mobile home. And a lot of these smaller structures, as the applicant has advised, should have been removed or have been removed. I can't confirm that at this time, but that is the information that was provided. And then the large garage structure is permitted as well as the mobile home.
Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? I have a couple questions for you. One, let's talk about the easement for a minute that goes all the way around. And when they say that there would be overflow parking, will they be allowed to park on the easement?
It would not be something that we would be putting in the application as far as planning. We wouldn't plan for them to do that. So there would have to be enough parking based on the square footage of their operation for what they're saying they're going to do.
So then, according to LDC that you're familiar with, I'm sure, the parking, how many parking spaces would be required to maintain for this?
I believe when we looked at it, it's roughly 3, and that's going to be taking into consideration the size of the track, the square footage of that, and the square footage of their retail components. But at roughly 3 parking spots is where I believe we landed on the requirement. If they do intend to have a larger gathering or what have you, that's something we would look at.
So their testimony is that they have probably close to 30 cars on the track, just using their simple math of maybe two people ride together, so you're gonna have 15 cars, and we're only gonna require them to have 3?
Again, that's something we're gonna have to look at. The parking requirements are gonna be specific to the size of the buildings and the size of the use. So anything past that is gonna be something that we're obviously gonna review and hope that they seek to put in.
Then my last question is, they said it was radioactive. Is there any FCC concerns for this area for them to, I don't know anything about them, never used one, but, so it's just a simple question, I don't know.
I have no idea.
All right.
Radioactive, I don't think you meant to say radioactive.
Oh,
but-
yeah, right.
It's like, wait.
Wrong, she corrected me.
To the best of my understanding, they're not drones here, that they're all gonna be vehicles that drive on the ground, so.
Toys.
Toys, as the applicant has
They
described.
are toys for adults, you're correct.
Professional toys. All right, thank you.
No problem.
All right, now at this time, the public portion of the meeting will be open. If there's anyone present who would like to speak on this application, please come forward to the podium. As a reminder, individuals have 3 minutes and organizations have 5 minutes. When speaking on this application, please address the board. If you have any documentation you want to enter into record, please provide a copy to the recording secretary. Anyone like to speak on this application?
Yes, sir.
You are the applicant, sir. You've already spoken.
I did have a piece of paper that I did not.
Is- At this time, I cannot allow that to come to us. Thank you. Anyone? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting down, and I'll bring the discussion back to the board.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Worthington.
I have enjoyed this application very much. I've never seen anything like it, and I think it's an interesting project. I think the applicants have a lot of work to do alongside the county. But I like it. And if I would be in favor of it if we added to the conditions, if it's permitted, Madam Attorney, to make a condition that the building permits for the unpermitted structures have to be approved in order for this conditional use, a condition being the approval of the permit that is in the building department.
I think you got a number for one of them, so maybe you could just say that any of the unpermitted structures would receive final permitting approval.
Okay. If we add that, board, then I think I want to give these gentlemen a shot and let them work this out with the county.
All right, Commissioner Shara.
I think I agree with Commissioner Worthington. This is kind of a cool thing. And getting people outside, enjoying the air and playing with their toys is neat. Guys, I think you're underestimating some of the details that you're going to have to address. And particularly, we talked about parking lot. Okay, sorry. Parking lot, restrooms. Restrooms are going to have to be addressed. You can't have people out there for hours at a time. All those details, my point is, I want you to be sure that you know what's in front of you. You're working with the county. The county's going to be stringent in its requirements, and make sure that you have you've done your due diligence and you have the resources to follow through with it. But other than that, I think it's a great idea.
Madam Attorney.
Chair, I did hear some discussion from the applicants about wanting unpaved parking. I don't know if y'all want to make it a condition that they are authorized to have unpaved parking, or?
The Land Development Code allows that option as long as it's stabilized and approved by the engineering division. So that is something, it sounds like they're not going to be having a daily thing. Maybe they will eventually. So we can offer that if you want to do so.
Yeah, my observation during my site visit was you don't want to do any paving out on this property, at least for now, until this becomes very, very successful and they've got to park hundreds of cars. It's very rural, and I think it's appropriate for this site, but I don't think we need to require them to have paved parking.
Except for handicapped, of course, no less
Yes,
space, so I
yes.
think something like.
Beyond the minimum.
Right, so if you want to go that route, Board, it would be something like stabilized parking must be provided, but does not need to be paved unless otherwise required by the Florida Building Code
Or the county engineer.
or the county engineer,
Yes.
yes.
All right, so I do have a question on to the county here. The terms of this conditional use, what would the term be? Can we dictate the term so we can find out if there's,
Is it
Or-
for as long as they continue to use it? Right?
Yes, when you issue it, I mean, they have, is it 1 year, 3 years, I can't
I
remember.
believe it's,
I know, under the
Three.
same, it's not a PUD.
it's either 1 or 3.
Yeah,
I think it's 3.
yeah, PUD's 3, and I'm not sure.
I
if
think
that-
it's 3, but I
Yeah,
just,
they have that long to start it, and then as long as it's in continuous operation and doesn't shut down for more than a year, it continues. Now, the board can put in a limit if you want to.
and with that being said, is there any code violations or anything that creates after they have the conditional use? Is there an exit plan that, or just wait for 3 years, or you guys handle that part of it
Well, code.
from code?
Code wouldn't shut them down, stop the use, but code would make them stop anything that was a violation. So if you want to relook at it in a year, just to make sure, then you could say that it expires in a year. You make sure things are moving along as you'd want them to. Or a year and a half, or 2 years. Or 3.
Yeah, you have one coming up later today that had a 5-year. And so that's why you're hearing it again. It's up to you. It's not the norm, but you certainly can do that if you have some concerns.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question, just to put it out there. Any other discussions from the board or purpose for a motion?
Mr. Chair, for the
Come on.
purpose of a motion, the Planning and Development Commission finds application number CU 2024-00009 consistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan, and that the Citrus County Land Development Code, and the Citrus County Land Development Code, and that this board approves with conditions the application based upon the evidence and testimony presented and the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition. It has been determined that approving the proposed conditional use will not adversely affect the public interest, that there is compliance with special rules governing individual conditional uses of the type involved, that the proposed development with conditions and safeguards attached would be generally compatible with the adjacent properties and other property in the district, and that the PDC is empowered under this section of the LDC described in this application to grant this conditional use.
Second.
We have a first from Commissioner Worthington, a second from Commissioner Facemeyer. And one thing I just want to clarify is, can we ask the applicant if he's okay with the conditions that we've added?
Yeah, I didn't hear that from you, but you wanted to add the conditions in your motion, correct?
Oh,
The two
I just said
additional
with
ones?
conditions,
Right.
we want to add,
Building permits must receive final approval for unpermitted structures, and also that stabilized parking can be utilized unless otherwise required by the county engineer or Florida Building Code.
yes, I am fine with adding those two conditions to the motion. As far as the term, I
Yeah, I'm not
don't have an
concerned with the term. It
opinion.
was a question. I'm sorry. I don't
Okay,
want to
so
confuse
those
you.
two, with the addition of those two conditions.
Mr. Facemeyer, no concern with your second? You're fine with those two?
Yes, yes.
Is there any further discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's granted. Thank you, sir. All right, now it's time for CU 2024-00014 for South Corner. If you can work your way to the podium as we get the staff introduction, please.
This application is to continue a conditional use for a bed and breakfast in the Coastal Lakes District.
This is not you.
This is a map of the subject property. This is a view from the subject property looking north. This is a view from the subject property looking south towards West St. Martin's Road. View from of the subject property along, looking east. A view from the subject property looking west. and the site plan submitted by the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, good morning. My name is Teresa Nahuis, Nahuys, and we live in 14085 West San Martin Road, because this is also our house and our business. And we have a small bed and breakfast. This is for our renewal. And we have four music thematic rooms. We're a small business. We are looking for our renewal of our conditional use, and if it's possible, not to have to renew every 5 years, because we are a very small business, and I don't know if it's possible. We also looking for that.
That's it?
I don't know, because we are running since, okay, yes, you're right. We are running since February 2021, and we design and we paint all the furniture, all the things. It's like we have we put all our efforts on loving the property. And these two last years were difficult because of the hurricanes. We have, but a lot of cancellations and problems. But we love that place. It's amazing. It's very nice.
All right, does staff have any questions for applicant?
No, sir.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
Can you tell me how long you've been in business as a bed and breakfast?
Since February 2021.
2021.
Yes.
And it is a bed and breakfast,
Yes, a small bed and breakfast.
Okay,
For guests.
it's not an Airbnb.
No.
You live on.
We have the license, we have the food license, we serve gluten-free gourmet breakfast, and I have the celiac disease, so we don't want cross-contamination, so everything is gluten-free, but very special. And we also have a alcoholic license only for wine and beer.
But you live on the property.
Yes, we
Okay.
also live on the property.
Thank
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Worthington.
I have a question. I wasn't unsure about when the initial application, was the house smaller and then you grew it?
No.
Because it looked like in the initial application, you said, when they asked how many people would be staying, it said, a husband and wife or whatever, and then children, and now it says 4 rooms. So has it expanded at all, or?
No, it's the same problem. The problem is that when we bought the property, we asked for the zoning to be sure we can run a bed and breakfast. So the first conditional use was asked for the last owner. And when everything was okay, we finished the process and we bought the property and we started to work on the property. But we didn't do, this is our first time, so doing this. So it's everything new for us.
The property was built in 2002.
Yes, the main house was built in 1994. It has the main house and the 2-bedroom, and the kitchen, and then the second owner, where it was the person we bought the property, extended the kitchen, the laundry, and built the 4 guest rooms. All the 4 guest rooms has a private entrance. We have a large deck, and they can enter through the stairs, and we also have a ramp for disabilities. And but everything, the building was there. We only designed the rooms, and we bought the furniture, we painted, we make all the thematic music thing, but the building was there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? I have a couple, just some small ones. One is you're in a septic tank there. How often since you started this business have you pumped out the septic tank, and has the septic tank been an issue or a concern at any time during this meeting?
We didn't have issues or problems with the septic, but we pump every year.
Every year, all right.
Yes.
And then my second question is updated or replaced some decking boards that wasn't permitted on your wood deck?
When we bought the property, there was a deck outside, and the wood was rotten, and we did not have idea in that moment that we had to ask for a permit, and we repaired that deck and extended it. That is the only thing we made. We didn't have a permit in that moment because we don't have idea. Someone came when we asked the permits and everything, and they asked in that moment, it was at the beginning, I think it was in 2021, 1 month before the opening, or the end of 2019, if we made something in the property, and we told him, yes, we repaired that deck, and they take measurements, and that when they told us, if you do something, you have to ask for a permit.
So have you got an after-the-fact permit on that yet, or are you?
For the deck?
Yes.
No. We thought that was okay when they measure and they know that we modified it, but no, we didn't.
All right, can you touch bases, or help me out here with the lime rock that you added on the driveway and the purpose of why you widened the driveway when you put the lime rock down?
Because that way they can make a roundabout to enter or get out of the property, because it was difficult for them when they enter some part of the car. It happens like 3 times. They broke one sausage we have. I don't have a picture to show you, but it was hard because we had to go and repair the faucet every time. So doing this turn, we don't have more that problem. So they can move and enter and go out without problem. But it has part of the gravel. We only complete the turn so they can go around. Because we have gravel to go, there is our boat ramp. So you have gravel to take you to the boat ramp or to the property. And here we have also gravel, so we make this part.
All right, my last question is, since 2014, there was a firm map that was presented to the county on your last.
2014?
Yeah, it was dated 9/26/2014, along with your elevation certificate, that you got the elevation certificate in back in 2019. Have you got an updated elevation certificate?
Yes.
Does it?
We have, but let me see.
It's just a yes or no. If you have it, then then it's public record and we can get that. But
Okay.
just wanted to find out if you had one and how big the changes were.
I think we have. Let me see if it's here. Oh no, it's not here.
That's fine. It's just a question.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions from the commissioners? All right. Seeing none. Thank you.
Okay.
So we get the staff introduction, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Melissa Morris, Planner. So I'll be presenting conditional use 2024.
Can you speak a little closer to the mic?
Sorry. 2024-00014, South Corner USA, Crystal River Lullaby Bed and Breakfast. This is a map of the subject property. This is an aerial view of the subject property. This is the rear of the property, and you can see where the steps and the ramp are to get to the guest rooms. This is looking from the dock. This is the dock overlooking the water. This is the underground parking. This is the deck that was expanded without permits. These are neighboring residences. And this is the site plan submitted by the applicant. I'm gonna go back here. And then this area right here is what was added as far as the driveway. It connected the boat ramp to the house, just a little portion of it, to give you kind of a better idea. So the, a bed and breakfast has been in use, operating, we've had no complaints on the bed and breakfast. The conditional use was approved for 5 years and it does expire today. They did submit new ISR calculations at quasi. The new ISR is .12, which is within the 35% maximum allowed in the Coastal and Lakes District.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
Does the applicant have any questions for staff? Do you have any questions for the staff? Does the board have any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Shara.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Did the revised ISR calculations include the new driveway or the driveway extension?
Yes, sir, and I did double check those.
Okay, so they're in compliance.
Yes.
And is there any issue with the after-the-fact permit for the deck expansion?
Those will need to be permitted.
So after the fact, they will have to permit the deck
Yes.
expansion? Okay. Any other issues that you see with the application itself?
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
Commissioner Facemeyer.
I have two questions, hopefully they're easy ones. Is it typical for us to require a renewal for a conditional use? We just, obviously, you know, that's an easy one, yes or no, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
No, not will require a renewal. Usually they keep operating.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, usually they keep operating. The minutes are in here to let you know that they had some concerns, so that's why they put a 5-year. That's unusual. CUs will continue as long as it's in operation, but in this one, they did do a 5-year. They had some questions. That's why those minutes are in there.
Sorry.
I know, you should not correct you.
No, if I'm wrong, you need to correct me.
That's fine, and there was another thing, there was a little conflict I read between the number of units that we're approving. It seemed to me in the prior approval it was for 4, and this is for 5.
No, it's still 4.
Okay,
Condition 1 says 4 rental rooms, and that's unchanged from the prior application.
somewhere I saw 5. But
Yeah.
I saw it too.
It might be something in the staff report, but the conditions are actually 4 rental rooms. That's not being changed.
I think there is an additional room that was not approved to be used.
Correct.
Yes.
But I thought in the current proposal or application it said 5.
No,
But
sir.
I'll keep looking. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I'll take your word for it.
Sorry for my confusion, but no, there will only be 4.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Stone.
can I extend on Commissioner Facemeyer's question? Is this for, this extension is for a 5-year period? Is that?
Go ahead.
Now, they're asking for no period. They're asking for an unconditional approval. That is up to you. If the board would like to add a condition and make it for an additional 5 years, you can. But the request is to just continue with no renewal period.
And we can do that?
Yes, you can.
That's actually typical to not have that 5-year. That was something unusual.
Okay, thank you.
I found the 5-room thing. It says, under analysis, so the applicant is requesting a conditional use.
Speak in the mic, please, and tell us what page you're on.
Well, you tell me what page you're on. 93 of 194. It says under analysis, the applicant is requesting a conditional use.
Oh, okay, you're looking at the prior.
That's the prior one.
Okay.
Convert the residence into a bed and breakfast. The proposed bed and breakfast will include 5 rooms and parking with access from the covered porch. Per the 2002 approved plans, 4 of the rooms are approximately 286 square feet with attached full bathrooms for each and across from the outside covered deck. The 5th room is located in the original 1994 residence.
Right, so what you're reading is the 2019 staff report from the previous conditional use that did not get approved for 5 rooms. They were only approved for 4 at that time, and that's unchanged now. They originally wanted 5, but they didn't get it, not them, the previous applicants. Okay, thank you.
All right, I have just a couple of questions to follow up. Did you do a site visit, or did somebody else from staff do the site visit?
No, I did the site visit.
You did the site visit?
Yes, sir.
Since they have an unpermitted deck, the reason I was asking about an elevation survey is, isn't that a requirement for them to have an elevation survey to get a permit for the deck?
I don't know, that'd be a Florida building code, but I don't think it
Well,
is
it's
for a
in the
deck,
ci-
it'd be for a like, living area.
It's in a coastal high area.
There you go,
that's-
then you would probably know more than us, so yeah, as part of the permitting, then that might be required.
so, Thank you.
Thank you.
You don't have to get a permit to just to replace rotten wood on a deck, do you, if you don't expand it?
I don't know, that's the building
Yes,
official's call.
Speaking to the mic,
Yeah.
Chuck can,
He's just saying, do you need a permit for replace a rotted wood deck? The building official would have to make that call.
I think they expanded it.
they expanded it, that's the
But
purpose.
expanding, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. All right, this time, the public portion of the meeting will now be open. If there anyone here present who would like to speak on this application, please come to the podium. As a reminder, individuals have 3 minutes, organizations will have 5 minutes. When speaking on this application, please address the board. If you have any documentation that you want to be entered into the record, please provide a copy to the recording secretary. Anyone? The podium is now open for this application.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Michael Serwinski, Environmental Consultant, professional address 2716 South Lecanto Highway. I have just one question. Since they've expanded a deck or a structure, I was just asking staff if they have a current wetland jurisdiction line on file for the project. It's obviously surrounded by wetlands. I am not sure if they did a wetland jurisdiction line when they originally applied, but if there's a structure that's expanded, they're probably going to need that in order to establish setbacks. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this application? Anyone? Last call. All right, this time I'm closing the public portion of the meeting down. I'm going to bring the discussion back to the board.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Worthington.
they've operated for 5 years with no issues. I don't see any reason to deny this extension of conditional use or a reason for them to have a time limit. They've obviously been good stewards. Now, about the wood deck, I mean, I'm willing to do something with the wood deck. I mean, they have 2 options here. They can unexpand it, or they can get it permitted and get all the documentation that is required to meet code. So however the board wants to handle that.
Yeah, I would like to see, and I agree with you, Commissioner Worthington, and I agree with all that. And I would just like to see in the proposed conditions that the deck gets permitted, and we have the proper spacing and so forth as required by the LDC and Florida Building Code.
So building permit must be received for wood deck expansion or the expansion removed.
And then should we put a safeguard in there if that doesn't happen, that this is not an indefinite conditional use, that they can continue using it forever and not complete the permit, or will that cover the permit issue with the county to?
Well, it expired today, so they're not gonna get a permit today.
Right, no.
Right, so,
No, I mean
90
in the
days?
future. Like, can we give them a year to get it done, or, a month, or, I mean, what-
right, so we can do something like 90 days, sounds good.
I
Within
agree not to have to come back in every 5
A year's
years.
certainly fine, it's up
Yeah.
to you. Within 6 months of the date of approval of this conditional use, something like that, whatever time frame you want.
'Cause
Well, you
I-
get 6 months to get an inspection, so.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
Because had this 5-year wasn't in there, we wouldn't have having this discussion on the deck.
Correct. And it was a different applicant entirely, so.
Right.
Okay, so within 6 months from the date of approval of the CO.
So, anyone else?
Want me to read it again, or what?
Yeah.
Ready? For the purpose of motion, the Planning and Development Commission finds application number CU-2024-00014 consistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and the County Land Development Code, and that board, this doesn't make any sense, approves with conditions the application based upon the evidence and testimony presented, the conditions plus the addition of the condition for the wood deck, and the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition. It has been determined that approving the proposed conditional use will not adversely affect the public interest, that there is compliance with special rules governing individual conditional uses of the type involved, that the proposed development with conditions and safeguards attached would be generally compatible with the adjacent properties and other property in the district, and that the PDC is empowered under the section of the LDC described in the application to grant this conditional use.
Second.
So we have a first by Commissioner Worthington, a second by Commissioner Farah. Any further discussions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Aye. So now it's time for CPA/AA/PUD-2024-00014 for local engineering, the Nomad RV Resort. We can get the applicant come forward as we get the staff does this presentation.
Yes, thank you. This application proposes to amend the future land use map and LDC Atlas map for a new RV park. The site is 29.6 acres in size and lies on the west side of US 19 in Homosassa between West Atlas Drive and West Kingston Drive. The site is currently designated as GNC, LDR, and CL, and would change to RVP for up to 196 RV sites. This is looking west and east on West Kingston Drive. This is looking west on West Atlas Drive, where the access point for the RV park would be located. There are wetlands on site which are identified on the proposed master plan. This is the master plan proposed by the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. Mike Wilburn, Local Engineering, Inc., P.O. Box 938, Floral City, Florida 34436. Before you this morning is a project situated on almost 30 acres, 29.6 acres on Highway 19. Currently, the parcel is zoned GNC as well as low-density residential, and we are requesting it to be redesignated to RVP. Both on the, and that zoning that's current is currently, but it's also on the future Atlas map as well. A little bit about the project. Proposes 196 RV sites along with 2 laundry facilities that you can see kind of catty-cornered diagonally from each other in the middle of the site. A recreation building with a pool, another recreation building for indoor gathering space, several outdoor sports courts which are located around the pool area or on the west side, or sorry, the south side of the site. The total RV spaces equates to 6.6 RVs per acre, which is below the allowable in the LDC. The project proposes to connect to both public water and public sewer. And you'll note the lift station on the northeast corner of the property, or the bottom right of that concept plan before you. There are wetlands, as was just stated, on site, and they are shown on this master plan. They're in the dotted gray areas. And as you can see, we have maintained a healthy buffer around those and are proposing to keep that there. The shape of those wetlands has prompted the shape and the design of this layout, as you can kind of see if you follow those lines and then offset them. That's why the pond, the walking trail, the pond, and the RV spaces specifically on the north side of the paper you're looking at there are the shape that they are. The access is proposed to be taken off of Atlas Drive, which is on the north side of the property or the right side of the page you're looking at, rather than on Kingston. This is to provide both a better product for the users of the RV park, but it's also to provide a better product to the neighbors to the south, and provide an additional buffer. Atlas Drive currently is one of 2 access points to the industrial park that is located to the west of this proposed project. This is also discussed briefly in the staff report on page 3 under compatibility, where it talks about an increased buffer by utilizing Atlas. All the roadways within the facility are designed as 24 feet wide. I know there was mention that it's not labeled in the staff report, but they are all laid out as 24 feet in width, where 20 foot is the minimum. We have been in contact with the owners of Atlas Drive. The staff report mentions that it's private, and we proposed the entrance be located along Atlas Drive and have had positive discussions with them, as well as negotiations with them on other types of improvements that could be made at Atlas Drive and also at the intersection of 19. This private ownership is discussed in page 4 of the staff report. The owner has already consulted with an environmentalist. That was prior to us being hired. And they're the ones that have put together the report, which you may have in your packet. You also may have, I'm not sure, it was submitted, but I believe you probably have a actual wetland map that is apart from this concept plan. And hopefully that's in your packet. If not, the report that you see after mine may show that. Regarding the requested buffers, as you will note on page 5 of the staff report, all of the proposed buffers meet or exceed the LDC requirements that we have put on this plan, except for the buffer that is along Atlas Drive on the north. And we proposed a type 5. The staff report says that a 5-foot type A. The staff report says, I believe, a 10-foot type B is required. The reason we put a 5-foot is simply because we just ignorantly thought that because of what that bordered and the industrial use that there wouldn't be a buffer required, and we wanted to put something. So we have no problems at all complying with the 10-foot type B that's mentioned in the staff report, and as you can see, we do have room for that. That was just an omission on our part, thinking that it was an industrial piece or industrial adjacent. So again, not asking for or would submit we do not need to ask for any relief on the landscape buffers. The only deviation that we would ask relief for is one that this board has heard many times, and that is a deviation to not have to comply with the bathhouse requirement that is in the LDC. I believe at one of the recent PDC hearings, there was even a comment made by staff that perhaps in the future the LDC would be looked at in terms of possibly changing that requirement, because in the past so many times it has been asked for relief and relief has been given. So that is the only relief asked for. In terms of the conditions, there are no conditions in the staff report that we have a problem complying with. We would be in compliance with all those. I want to conclude by stating that the proposed use is, as you guys have seen before with RV parks, it's transient, not permanent. This use provides better relief for storm impacts than being developed as GNC on the front portion. On page 3 of the staff report under compatibility, there's also a discussion of the existing 2.5 acres of GNC. And just want to point out that our LDC allows for up to 70% impervious in GNC. And so this use, I would submit again, is less impactful than what it could be built. A portion of it could be built right now. And as the staff report mentions on page 3 under compatibility, if this is approved, that GNC portion would go away and be removed and be absolved into this RVP. That's all I have, but I'd love to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have staff have any questions?
Just one. We have the public input. We received some earlier and then some today. Can you address some of those issues? I know you touched on them. Recent flooding events, and seems to be a concern about possible fill and impact to surrounding properties.
I had planned on, I'm sure some of the public comment will be up here, and I planned on addressing it then, but I will say that this project has to comply with Chapter 6 of our LDC, which is stormwater management. That's flood compensation, that's stormwater. this area in particular, and with this type of design. The roadways, the pads for RV parks, all of that type of infrastructure does not have to meet flood, so fill is not required for those things. That's one of the less impactful components of an RV park, is it doesn't have to accommodate for any type of fill because they don't have to be elevated. They're transient. Storm comes, they can pick up and go. So in terms of flood compensation, I would say that is a minimal concern, if any, because we're going to be required to hold back on this property more so than what naturally left. And you can see DOT has a pond that separates this property from Highway 19. So and you can also see that we're not discharging into that. So we're retaining more than the current site does now. And we also, through that Chapter 6 and through the ERP process with SwiftMud, we'll have to ensure that we have shown them that any type of fill that's placed for the actual buildings would be mitigated in the storm and or somewhere else on site. Also want to point out that if minimal fill is required, if any, for the areas where the pads are in the roadways, you can see that there's quite a bit of stormwater shown as proposed, DRA. All of that would be cut. And so again, we're actually going to be, should this be approved, when all is said and done, taking out more fill, taking out more earth than we're going to be placing in, and again, showing and establishing that the net environment around this will feel a better impact in flood conditions than it does right now.
Thank you.
Does the board have any questions for applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Shara.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
Question on the road. Atlas is a private road. You've indicated that. You're in discussion. Which party would be responsible for discussions with FDOT in terms of road improvements related to any required turning lanes?
Yep.
And in modifications?
So I believe that's in the staff report also, but it would be on this client, even though it's private, if we are utilizing their access point. Yes, through permitting, it would be a mutual agreement, and both parties would have to be involved, which is why we've been in negotiations with them and reaching out to them. Where they benefit and why it's a mutual client, so it's a cool situation, but where they benefit is more than likely turn lane is going to be required, and that industrial park could use it, and so that's an incentive for the current owner to want to come to the table. Yes, they'll get an improvement. Yes, they'll allow access, but they will also have a net benefit, and safety will be improved, because right now that industrial park, as I mentioned, has 2 exits and neither of them have a light, and in that industrial park there's lots of semis and large vehicles and deliveries on a constant basis, and so it'll help the flow. It'll help everybody involved, and so that's why the private party has been excited about this proposed entrance and access and working with us.
Any other questions from the board?
I have one question. Can you tell me what flood zone this property's in?
It's AE 10.
Excuse me?
AE 10,
AE 10.
elevation 10.
Thank you.
Michael, can you touch bases on me and update me on this, your lift station, your pumping station that you're putting in, the gallons, et cetera, on that?
If it's approved with 196 units, just spitballing here, based on the administrative code, that would be about 10.5. That's on the high side, about 10.5 gallons per minute, with peak demand probably being about 6 gallons per minute.
All right, and I'm sure you reviewed the technical service.
Yes.
And do you have any concerns with any of meeting that criteria?
No.
And then my last question is, do you have any concerns on meeting the FEMA criteria?
No.
Because part of the criteria is bathhouse, right? Because what would be your explanation to FEMA why you wouldn't comply with the bathhouse. I understand we've approved them in the past, but this is in a high coastal area.
So are you saying for the implementation of not having one?
Well, Emily,
Or,
well, you're saying you don't want one.
correct?
So FEMA criteria says you're required to have one, so what would be the answer to FEMA? Would it be coming back to us saying that you don't have to, or, I mean,
I'm not aware of FEMA requiring a bathhouse.
all right, thank you, Michael.
I'm just curious, are any of these gonna have like?
Speak in the mic,
ancillary
please.
structures?
Say that one more time.
Are they gonna have like ancillary structures? Are they?
We
gonna-
have zero, no, we have not placed that as a request or anything on here. On-site, like small sheds, no.
Yeah, okay.
I have one more question. Will any of these spaces be permanently owned?
No, they won't be condoed out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael. Can we get the staff to come forward with the staff presentation, please?
All right, this is a request for a comprehensive plan amendment and Atlas amendment and master plan for a new RV park. And this is the site right now. It is currently vacant, heavily treed, and does contain some wetlands. Did want to point out the land uses in the area, the zoning in the area. As pointed out by Dr. Wilburn, there is approximately 2.5 acres of general commercial. It's right behind the rest of that general commercial is an FDOT DRA. It's being used as that. I don't think there's any chance of that changing in the near future. So they are removing some commercial from the coastal high hazard area, always a positive. Their Atlas Drive, which is where their access is, leads to industrial. You can see the cross hatching there. That is not a residential street. There is a small part of LDR there on the north side, but it's not being used for residential. This is a commercial and industrial area on Atlas. The residences are down on Kingston on the south side, and Kingston is not proposed to be accessed by this particular RV park. So this is a little bit of the interior. There are some wetlands in there. They have constructed a fence very recently. You'll see that in the staff report. One of the conditions is they do have to remove the fence from the areas where it's encroaching onto both right-of-ways and in the wetlands. And Dr. Wilburn did say he was okay with those particular conditions. A little bit more, there is some tree removal, very light. They probably were doing this for the fence. They'll need to pick up this debris. They can't have that laying around. And regardless of the application, this is looks like you'll see it on, I'm going to point it out in the master plan, but it definitely is moving water. It's coming over from the Kingston area neighborhood, and it was moving, and it is a wetland that surprised staff a little bit. It's viewable from Kingston. So this is part of the fence that is constructed. I think this particular site, it was on Atlas. This is the master plan. So what they're asking for, well, they're going to have water and sewer, which Mr. Barmas pointed out. Water would be Citrus County Water Resources. They did say they needed a lift station to upgrade to impact this. Potable water is Homosassa Special Water District, and you also have a letter in your packet that there's adequate compensation for that. We talked about buffers a little bit. They are meeting all required buffers with one exception, as Dr. Wilburn talked about. It's the northern commercial area, which is right around here. Honestly, a 5-foot type A or a 10-foot type B, they have a big DRA there, and this is a budding commercial property. So it's a land development code standard to try to protect around drainage retention areas. I don't know that we really have to. He's willing to do a 10-foot type B. That's great. I wouldn't put my foot down on that particular buffer. Do want to point out the other buffers, though. For the south side on the residential area for Kingston, they are having a 35-foot type C undisturbed. So that's this area here. And the moving water that I saw is this little strip right here, and that's proposed to stay, as well as this entire wetland buffer will stay. And then they have a pedestrian walking trail around the entire thing. Does not look like wetlands are impacted at all with this particular design. It looks like they tried to work around them. They have a bunch of wetlands up here as well that they're working around and putting in the buffer. They're proposing 196 RV spaces at a density of 6.6. They are allowed up to 7 in this particular area. They're not asking for any kind of sheds or anything like that. You did hear it is a flood zone with the base flood elevation of 10 feet. The land ranges from 4 to 10 feet in this area, so that would be a concern. Mr. Barmas, I'm not aware either that FEMA requires a bathhouse, but if they did, they wouldn't have to come back before you. If you give them relief, great, but if it's required by a FEMA standard, they have to do it. So he'd have to find a way to do that. And zooming into the site plan, there are conditions of approval. They seem to meet LDC standards with the exception of that one buffer that I talked about over here along the DRA, and the fact that there's not a bathhouse at this time proposed. There are 10 conditions.
Thank you. Does the applicant have any questions for staff? Michael, you have any questions for staff? All right. Does the board have any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Shara.
good morning.
Good morning.
Atlas Road is a private road.
Yes.
And it's being proposed then to handle the traffic for all the RV park. Does the county will the county impose standards on the design of that road, the width, the safety features of the road, considering that that's going to have heavy industrial traffic as well as the RV?
Right, it is a private road. They are kind of on their own. You do see a little bit about this. The engineering said the applicant is responsible for obtaining any approvals necessary for the proposed driveway connection. That's it. It's a private road, so they are working with the owners of that. It is already serving industrial areas to the rear.
Another question, you mentioned that the area to the north is, although it's residential.
Not residential to the north, to the south.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Can you go back to the
Yeah.
zoning map, please? Okay, just as I was looking to the north.
Right, there is LDR and CL here,
LDR.
but it's not being used in that way. This is very much an industrial and commercial area. If you look on the packet, there's, for the locator map, the black and white one, it actually has what's there, and you'll see a whole bunch of Cs in this area for commercial. But they could have residential there, and they are meeting the buffer in that area.
All right. And you mentioned that the running water that you actually saw in your inspection, that would have been on the southwest corner?
Right, southwest, yes, southeast.
Southeast corner?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's right here. North is this way, this is 19 out here, so it's right there, that one. But there's also very much wetlands to the rear.
Give me just one other second here. I think that's good for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're easy on me today.
Hey.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Stone.
do you keep any statistics on how many RV parks that we have come before us in the past year?
No, we do not. There's not a limit.
Thank you.
Commissioner Facemeyer.
Joanna, would you discuss the request that the applicant has for a waiver of the bathhouse provision? And I know in recent applications, in recent years, applications of this nature have requested a deviation, and we've had a lot of discussion on this board about that. So can we hear your thoughts?
Yeah, so that's an old remnant from the Land Development Code. It's been there since 1990, and old RVs at that time absolutely had to have bathhouses and laundry rooms and et cetera to go to. And the newer units don't need those. The newer units are often self-contained, so which is why more and more they're saying they don't want them. We always can require them, but I am aware that's a remnant and that newer RVs don't really need those. Now, Mr. Barmas has pointed out something interesting with FEMA. If FEMA requires it, absolutely, and I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on that, and I'll get with you and get what I can from that. I had actually thought about possibly pulling that out of the code since it's kind of a rote request all the time, but if it's in FEMA, I'm going to have to change a little bit before it comes back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, I can clarify it right now for you. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
When I wrote the notes, the notes is, the FEMA requirement would be that they got to meet minimum standards for the buildings and recreation areas. With the deviation of the bathhouse, when I wrote bathhouse, I wrote NR, and which to me means not required. So I misspoke on that.
Oh, okay.
FEMA will not require them to have a bathhouse. So I did.
Because they're not permanent,
The
I
whole world's
understand.
hearing me say I was wrong. So
We have
yes.
this on tape, too.
I know, and they're gonna play it back and forth,
Mhm.
over and
I
over.
did it today, too.
And today, yes.
We all do,
So I
but
did-
that's good to hear. I do think in an upcoming amendment, we may remove that requirement from the RV parks because everyone is asking for deviation from it. It's just a standard, an
Yes.
old remnant. Thank you.
So I did misspoke. I don't have any other questions or any concerns about this, but Commissioner Shara?
Yes.
Could I have a follow-up?
Absolutely.
Are you ready?
I don't know.
Look, the elephant in the room,
Mm.
evacuation zone west of 19. And, you know, the representation is these are all transient.
Yes.
That should there be, which implies to me, or I infer is, a weather event occurs, then the owner of the RV park looks at all the folks out there and said, you've got to go.
Correct.
And that puts a burden of responsibility on that owner. From an operation standpoint, have you had any discussions with the applicant if people don't go? What is
That's
the
not really,
recourse?
yeah, not really land development code item, but these are transient by statute. They have to, they don't have any choice. You cannot live in an RV park permanently. It's 6 months, that's it. That's all you get. It's on our comp plan, it's in our land development code, but it's also in Florida statutes. So the sheriff's the one that decides people have to go, but if there's an evacuation order, this would be no different than a hotel in that they have to get out. And then
Yeah.
there's always the people that refuse those, and that's the sheriff.
Thank you.
That's exactly what I was going to tell you. The Hotel Motel Association will require them to move
It's,
because the
it's
EOC.
treated the same. They're definitely
Yeah.
transient uses, yeah.
Anyone else? Commissioner Stone?
The same requirement is generally included in marinas for boats, and I can tell you that it's almost universally ignored.
And those are the ones you see stacked up like little toothpicks after the storm, but yeah.
I would recommend a condition that they not have any ancillary structures for two reasons. One is, if you look at RV parks that have them, a lot of times people will stay longer and have kids in there and, you know, live there part-time. And I know that's not the intent here, so if you have that in there, that wouldn't be something that might happen. Plus, during a flood event, things move around, and that would take that out of the equation.
Yeah, they do have to ask for permission for a shed or a gazebo up to 60 square feet for each lot. He's not done that. We can add a condition saying he absolutely can't. The LDC kind of says he can't if he doesn't ask for it, but we can certainly add that condition if you'd like.
All right. Thank you, Joanna. All right, this time the public portion of the meeting will now be open. If there's anyone present who would like to speak on this application, please come to the podium. And as a reminder, individuals will have 3 minutes and organizations have 5 minutes. When speaking on this application, please address the board. If you have any documentation that you want to enter to the record, please provide a copy to the recording secretary. So the podium is yours.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. My name's Andrew Paliuka, 2273 South Dana Point in Homosassa, 34448. I live immediately adjacent on Kingston Drive to this proposed park. Impact will be, there. To be clear, my preference is for the land to stay as is. We all love our nature, environment, and the trees here. But I'm a realist. We need development. We need smart development in this county. The 10-year project out there on US 19 to get completed is probably proof that we fall behind in getting things done. However, I'm sure everyone here has looked at the two RV parks, recent RV parks, the one by Rural King and the one here out on Homosassa Trail that's just been opened. That, by the way, markets 1-year leases for their customers, not 6 months. But those are, quite frankly, eyesores. Every tree is leveled, and it's a concrete jungle out there. It's not consistent with what this county likes in the nature coast. Nature and harmony lives in harmony, and people live in harmony. I can't imagine living right on Kingston opposite this RV park to look at no more trees over there and a bunch of RVs. I find with a little bit of, I'm bemused a little bit by the comment earlier of the noise concerns for a remote controlled car that's maybe a foot long. And we're gonna have 196 RVs proposed right across the street from my house. And the noise and the visual, pollution that's gonna create. So, if there is an approval process, or if there is an approval going to be given to this park, my personal preference is that we look at the number of RV sites on there that are approved, and there be, some kind of improvement to the sewer line that does not extend all the way out to Palm Beach Loop at the end of Kingston. I personally have friends that have given this county hard money to get that sewer line extended out into Palm Beach Loop, and all we've seen is green pipes on the ground for 2 years. These people are ready to build houses out there if you can get them sewer out there. And it's 2 years we've watched green pipes sit on the ground and no progress. So, smart development. I hope everyone appreciates the importance of that. Thank you for.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
My name's Jason Petty and my wife Rebecca. We live at 2314 South Gavin Terrace, Homosassa, Florida, 34448. And like Andy said, I would just make a few comments that, the way I understand or read the permit would be that if at any time they wanted to develop the Kingston access, would they have to come back and get it re-permitted with you, or is that carte blanche? They get complete control over that with Florida Department of Transportation. If so, I'd be against that because I think Kingston gives that community a little buffer zone there, and it needs to stay as quiet as possible. And with that amount of traffic coming in and out of there on that road, it would be pretty detrimental to the neighborhood. And then secondly, I would comment that, expansion's gonna happen. We understand that. But like Andy said, there's only a 3-board fence along Kingston Drive. I would recommend that there be some sort of, higher, taller barrier through there so that it gives, some protection on noise and also is more aesthetically in line with nature, so we don't have to see a bunch of RVs. And then the last thing is also a bigger, higher barrier. We're gonna have 190 people plus their kids and their family, and everybody's gonna wanna go get in that river. And so there's gonna be trespassing issues, there's gonna be, people trying to get across there to fish on private property. And if there was more of a barrier system along that road and maybe rounded the corner a little bit, it would deter people from, bothering the neighborhood. So that's kind of my comments.
I'd just like to add to it. I'm like, my kids tease me, I'm obsessed with trash. I'm not obsessed with trash, I'm obsessed with keeping trash off of our community. People who know me in the community see me out all the time. I'm on 19 cleaning up construction trash from the highway workers, and I'm on the opposite side cleaning up trash from people just throwing stuff out. I'm picking up homeless trash. I'm in the water. I'm picking up trash from the water that's been in there for a good 20 years. I can tell because of the bottles and the cans that are in it. I don't see anybody else concerned about the trash, and I cannot imagine with all these people coming in, how much more impact are we gonna have blowover from trash coming over into our waters, into our properties that we're responsible to pick up and we're responsible to pay to have it took away.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name's Sally Krasny. I live at 2341 South Palm Beach Loop, which is on the south side of Kingston. What nobody pointed out is those finger areas of our residential neighborhood, that is the head springs of the Halls River. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have the RV park. I don't know what's a good use of the property. That's as good as any, so I'm not here to object to the RV park. But just different considerations need to be given for the residential area. For starters, the traffic. There is no left-hand turn on or off Atlas Drive at this time, which means any RVs leaving that would want to head northbound on US 19 would have to make a right-hand turn and jump across all 3 lanes of highway, and within about 1,500 feet, get in the left-hand turn lane at Kingston Drive to make a U-turn. Already, it's a very busy intersection, and that would really add to the congestion to it. Same thing with getting onto Atlas. They have to travel north of Atlas, make a U-turn on US 19 to get to it. Because the owner has submitted a developmental plan, he's allowed to begin to do some basic clearing, I guess it is. Well, we now have a juvenile bobcat that's wandering the neighborhood looking for a new home, and we have plenty of wetlands, he's gonna find it. But recently we have seen for 25 years gopher tortoises coming and going from that property, and recently we found a carcass of a squashed baby tortoise in the road. So they have not yet had somebody, I don't know what it's called, that they have to come in environmentally to check for endangered species. But they are doing, activity is on that property, and that has not been done yet. And they need to be stopped before they go any further with that. Compatibility with adjacent land uses, and this is what I'm getting off of your paperwork. They are planning for a 25-foot buffer zone, and a split rail fence has been erected, which is not acceptable for a buffer zone to the residential neighborhood on the south. We feel he should be required to build a solid wall north of the buffer zone, because we don't want to look at a wall either, with a 25-foot natural vegetative on the south side of the wall. We don't only want to see the visitors in the RVs, we don't want them to even know we're there. Once the RVs go on Google and see that there's a body of water directly south of them, off of West Kingston, they're gonna wanna check it out. Anybody would. Water's a draw to adults and children, we all know that. There is no public access to the Halls River. This is all private property. The river that we live on West Palm Beach Loop is it's picturesque, and we have troubles with people putting boats in, putting kayaks in, and fishing, and we need to have some control over that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Vicki Rainey. I live at 2320 South Palm Beach Loop. I'm going to reinforce some of what Sally just mentioned to you. Our little neighborhood that we have to the south of the proposed site is quiet, it's natural, it's peaceful. We want it to stay that way. That's why we bought there in the first place. The clearing of an additional 27 plus acres is going to cause displacement of wildlife, including protected gopher tortoises, foxes, otters, bobcats, bald eagles, osprey, and more. We have dolphins, and we have manatee in the river just feet away from this proposed site. All of these wildlife have already been continuously displaced over the last 5+ years due to both the never-ending and never-completed expansion of construction on Highway 19 and the addition of the extensive retention ponds that are to the west of the proposed site there and all along that span of 19. So our wildlife are continually having to find new homes. Losing this 27 acres is going to be a big displacement of a lot of species. Another concern is the likelihood of those transients. 196 seems really, really excessive for this little space. We have empty RV parks all over the county already. I don't see how we're gonna end up with 196, and I do pray that we never have them all filled. Sorry. But we're going to have trespassers in the neighborhood. We're going to have these transients walking around exploring, and you can't blame them for that. But the area around the park to the south is all private property. It's not public property. It's not an area where we need people walking around and looking for that public water access. That does not exist. All of the water access is private. We have boathouses, we have boats. We certainly don't want to have any accidents there because of people being on our property, unauthorized. So it's something that we have to keep in mind. We're going to have to continually police our neighborhood and try to kick people off of our property. It's not exactly how we want to live. Kingston Drive itself is in terrible condition. It is a narrow road. It has not been repaired properly or paved in decades. It cannot withstand the additional traffic that is going to be caused by the construction and the industrial traffic that's going to be needed while this construction's going on. We all know that there's going to be big trailers, trucks, whatever going down there. And then there's going to be a lot of these folks that are driving to here, to the new site, that will make wrong turns and come down our tiny little skinny street that's in terrible shape, pulling their trailers, turning around. It's going to be a traffic mess as well as a mess for our animals. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
My name is John Cordolano. Currently building a house on Dana Point, which is, well, if you look at the map, it's literally right there next to where that spring is. So with that being said, that is actually a spring-fed creek that runs onto that property. There's a culvert underneath Kingston Drive currently that leads to Andy's backyard where there's actual spring right there pumping and flowing. You can see it. That is definitely an issue because at the end of the day, how do we know that there isn't going to be any watershed from the RV park going into that? And it literally leads directly into Halls River, right there. Another thing is that I had on my list is the stormwater management plan. I don't know if there is one. I didn't get a copy of it at least. So what I want to know is, for one, I can't read anything on there. Is the blue area, Mike might be able to answer this, is the blue area ponds or no?
He'll have a rebuttal afterward.
Okay. If those are retention ponds, that's great. But with that being said, how are we going to get from the bottom left corner and the top left corner, how are we going to divert that water into those retention areas and away, again, from the springs? There's numerous springs throughout each one of those fingers right there, those canals. How are we going to divert that water? How's it going to get into those ponds is definitely a huge issue, I believe. I am a contractor myself. I'm building numerous waterfront homes right now, so I'm very familiar with implementing stormwater management plans. I understand them. I know that they're great for the environment, helps keep the water from shedding directly from your home into the river and helps protect them. Another thing is, like Andy said, there is a brand new, I think it's 300 unit RV park currently on Homosassa Trail. Just opened up. And at the end of the day, I think that they did a really good job with it. Obviously, there was some clearing involved, but that is actually, so if you look at the footprint of this, it's taking up a significant amount of that land. That new one there on Homosassa Trail, compared to the acreage that they do own currently and that is wooded, it doesn't, if you go by percentages, it's not even close. Like, they have plenty of buffer. There's plenty, like, it's not next to a residential area. So, like, with here we have LDR right across the street on Kingston. With that one, there's actually, it borders Homosassa Trail, yes, but there's a significant buffer. It's not 25 feet. I mean, it's hundreds of feet, hundreds of yards in some areas. So, is that the timer?
Yes.
All right, well, I guess that's it then. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Bob Sabota, 2340 South Palm Beach Loop, Homosassa, 34448. I've been down here since '92, I retired. We have never flooded there. In a no-name storm, nothing. These past two storms we just had, the first one, it came 5 foot from my front door. And I'm way down in, well, you don't have it there. On the loop is the last house on it, inside of the horseshoe, facing the river. I'm maybe 50, 60 yards from the river. It's hard to talk about that, but thank God somebody's over our shoulder. We haven't flooded yet. But that whole area up in there, I was here when they auctioned it off in the early 90s. 20 acres, 21 acres for X amount. I was talking to the guys there that auctioned it off, and they said 1 house to 10 acres, I don't know, in the wetlands up there. I don't know if it changed since then, but that was that. But that area there is like a plug. It opens up, when the water comes up, way up high, it runs off into that whole area there. And I guess that's what saves our area down there. But other than that, I don't know. It's just, I just can't see. Do we really need another trailer park? That's about it.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
William H. Gaffney, Lieutenant Colonel, USMC, retired. I live at 2375 South Palm Beach Loop, Homosassa, Florida, 34448. My wife prepared a letter that she submitted to not only the commissioners, but I gave you a copy of it this morning. Unless you want me to, I'm not going to bore you with reading this to you, because most of what she has addressed in this has already been pointed out by some of these other people. The one thing I would like to add is that, yeah, it's not only gopher tortoises and bobcats and whatnot, also deer. I've seen deer playing in there when I walk up and down Kingston during my daily walks. I would like to point out, though, that several years ago, when we were still snowbirding, before we moved down here permanently, they were working on those retention ponds right beside 19. One of the ladies here actually had to go and advocate because our river turned white. The fish and whatnot ran off for several years. They're starting to come back, but the river is still dingy at times. It's being affected just by what they're doing with those, because recently they've been working on them again. If this is put in place, I don't know, whatever. During Helene, and if I'm permitted, I would like to introduce this. This is a picture that was taken on the back part of the loop where we live. As Bob pointed out, we had never been flooded that we knew of in recent history. Helene this time actually came up. It got to our front yard and got in our backyard, and as we were walking around that day, when you go down towards this area here, the water was flowing into that. I don't know what kind of impact this might have on where that water goes to, but I just like to point that out. And since I'm not going to bore you with repeating what these other people said, I would just like to say that this is, again, something I'm not sure it's really needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
My name's Heath King, 2365 South Palm Beach Loop, Homosassa. And I just want to, can I use the pointer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe? Okay. Just kind of reiterate what a couple people have said. I'm not sure what the gentleman's name was talking about the retention ponds. Water flows downhill. So to catch, and this is something I hadn't even thought about till today, this has to be built up along Kingston Drive here. That was our saving grace during Helene because the water came up from all these canals. It actually came up through the woods. It was a whole big mess. But that has to be raised up for the retention ponds to work. That will flood our houses, without a doubt. That's really it. I mean, how can y'all approve this? It's really mind-boggling to me.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Hi, how are you? Thank you very much for hearing us today. Joanne Bartell. I live on White Dogwood Drive, just south of this project, right on the other side of the water there. I want to make some quick clarifications to some of the application comments. There's only 2.5 acres of general commercial on this property. It is a very tiny sliver right behind the state stormwater pond. Honestly, folks, it is not at risk of any kind of a intense commercial development on US 19. It is a very tiny sliver. The remaining 27 acres is all residential. Directly across Atlas to the north, and this gentleman over here had asked this question, that is vacant, undeveloped residential. I'm very familiar with the property. I'm personal friends with the owners. They are waiting for sewer, and they only have plans for residential there. I don't know why it was being characterized as being dotted with commercial. Yes, the first 400 feet on US 19, but this project here starts, I'm going to say maybe 375, 400 feet almost, because the commercial is so tiny of a sliver. Don't have much time, so. As other people mentioned here, there is no left turn onto US 19, no northbound turn off of Atlas, nor can there be. I just came from there before I came to this meeting. The state finally, after 8 years, finished the median. It is a Z design. You cannot go across there. They are not going to rip up US 19 after 8 years and change that. That means, was it 196 RVs that are leaving there? And let's say it's Memorial Day weekend, Labor Day weekend, 4th of July weekend, the start of scallop season, or an evacuation. How many of those 196 RVs that are going to be leaving at approximately the same time during the busiest times on US 19 are going to go south and do a U-turn on US 19 at Kingston to go north? What is the remedy? The remedy will be to make an exit onto Kingston. Honestly, folks, it's putting the cart before the horse not to be addressing this now. And if that RV park is going to have an exit onto Kingston, all these good folks that live there have a right to know it and have a right to address this board on it. I hope it's not the type of thing that would become a modification done in-house, because that's a big modification for anybody that lives there. That's a lot of RVs. Kingston is not the type of road that is designed for that. It's narrow and it's not well maintained. I just want to say FDOT has no plans for a traffic light. They've already told us that. That is the stretch of 19 that was named one of the deadliest, I believe the 13th per capita in the United States. That is the stretch of highway that has that designation. In response to that report, FDOT said, no traffic light, it's 19. It's a road meant to go through, not a road meant to be developed with higher density and intensity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
My name is Mike Krasny. address 2341 South Palm Beach Loop, Homosassa. Indicated on the master plan, the recreation center is on that south side of the property. This is where the people are going to congregate, the RVers with their kids and everybody else. That's where they're going to maybe have a program in the evening, have music for the 4th of July and so on. These things should be moved away from the residential area and not affect the neighbors. Let them put it on the north side of the property where it's commercial. That's what they're bragging about. They're going to brag and bring in the RVs on that commercial side. This is another way to be good neighbors by moving things and not putting it in our backyard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
My name's Roy Burtner. I'm not gonna repeat everything that they say because it's all great. They said some wonderful stuff, important stuff. But my mother lived there for 50 years, over there on the loop. She would be appalled at what's going on right now. She got a petition up back in 1973 to turn Halls River into a bird sanctuary. And she got Homosassa to do that. And I think it's a fantastic thing because there's a lot of guns going off back there and birds were getting scared of the guns, and so she got the petition up. And you don't hear many guns going off, just that back in the woods where some other people live, but they're killing pigs, which is fine. But I'm worried about the people coming in and just walking around our property and walking, up and down in Kingston, and I'm worried about. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the transits. I'm worried about people. We are right now. We have to almost police the area. We call Bob there. He's our official mayor of the neighborhood, and he's right there, looking right there at the river, can see everything goes on. And if somebody comes up there and that we don't know and they want to, oh, this looks like a good place to put a kayak in or something, he comes out of the house and goes, hey, what you doing? Hey, get out of here. So it's a good thing. And we want to keep it that way. We like the neighborhood. It's quiet. It's peaceful. We all know each other. We're like family there. And we have little block parties and stuff and things go on. So I'm worried about the people from that going into our neighborhood wanting to use, and it's a perfect spot to put canoes and kayaks in. And a lot of these people are going to want to use our property, and that's all private. Anyway, my address was 2291 South Palm Beach Loop, 34448. And like I said, my mother's Helen Sandlewick. Lived there for 50 years, and almost about the time that this place was developed back in 1958. And she would be very, very upset about stuff like that. She belonged to the Auburn Society and all that. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that I really don't want this thing put in. I really don't. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker. What?
Yes?
No.
Rebecca, Patty.
It's up to you.
Okay, I just want to say, Crystal River manatees are a lot of the income, correct? People live off of manatees. That's what brings tourism in here. And in each of those fingers that we live in that are off on Cape Kingston, I don't tell people that don't live there this, but in each of those fingers, every morning around 7:30, 8 o'clock, when it's manatee season, pods come through there and they sleep from doing whatever activity they have, or they're mating and breeding back in those areas because they're safe, because it's quiet, because people are protective of them. And that's all gonna be changed when people go out there, because it's amazing to see a manatee right there, this huge animal, and you can just access it right there. And what are they gonna do to it? They're gonna throw things at it? They're gonna try to feed it? They're gonna try to pet it? What are they gonna do? And it's gonna evade, or it's going to lessen the trust of the manatees that we do have in the community, to the transients and the ones that come from, that are there all year long. So I just oppose this so much on behalf of the manatees. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yeah, my name is Dean Bales. I live in 2259 South Todd Point, and you can see the roof of my house in one of these photographs. But there is an area that is a flood zone that is not readily visible by boots on the ground, and it's not, if I may use the pointer here, however this thing works. Right in through there, that's a little spring-fed ditch, and if you walk up that ditch, you can see that by the time you get up near the highway, there's no water at all coming out of it. Just a little seepers come from here, there, wherever, and then by the time they dump into the main dredge canal here, it's a pretty good flow. But by some months of dry season, there's no water at all coming out of it. But the area where you see a number 14 right through here. Several years ago, when we kept having these monsoon rains during the summer, we get hit with 10 inches, 12 inches. It would just rain all day and part into the night, or all night and into the day. That area flooded, and you can't tell by looking at it when you're there. You don't see cypress trees or anything of the kind like that, but that area was all flooded, and I see that kind of looks like there's RV sites on what was underwater during that time. I know because I'd walk across there and take a look at it. But I'm wondering, is there going to be a berm and swale system? Someone brought up the fact that the retention areas are all the way at the opposite end of the property. So is there going to be some kind of a berm and swale going around the perimeter of this property? I mean, we're expected to have one for a residential house between the house and the waterway. What are they going to do to stop surface runoff from going into that little spring-fed creek, which then goes underneath Kingston, which then goes right straight into the head of Halls River? I just want to know a little more details if we could. Okay, I guess that's it. This is better, I think, than a car lot. My fear where they put yet another car lot in there, and they'd light the place up all night, so it'd be perpetual daylight and intercoms paging different people. That we'd have to listen to that, and so this may be by far the lesser evil, but I just want to know some of the details of it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker. Anyone? Okay, saying none. Does the applicant have a rebuttal?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to address some of the concerns that were mentioned. I have 13 different things that I wrote down. Many of them through the presentations were noted as very similar concerns. So the first one, I want to talk about the buffer. And that seems to be something that has come up with more than half of the speakers. Worried about the buffer, worried about trespassing, worried about access from the site to Kingston, which right now, again, we show 0 access. We do show a 35-foot buffer. However, we would have no objection, and based on the concerns, it sounds like it may be a great idea to put a 6-foot privacy fence, to put some kind of barrier that's more permanent than just the natural buffer along the south side. There was one speaker who mentioned not wanting to see it, and I think that's a great idea also. Maybe leave the natural buffer and then place that 6-foot fence privacy wall closer inward on the north side of that 35-foot. We would have no issue doing that. There were several concerns for the natural habitat and the species that were there, are currently there and have been evidenced. in the past. It's in your staff report, but this site is over 5 acres and requires a biological survey to be done. I mentioned before we were hired, there was a wetland survey done, but no biological survey has been done yet. But as mentioned in the staff report, that is part of the process, and that could stall the project. That could kill the project by itself. But that is a requirement, and that is something that will have to be required and gone through by the owner at the time of permitting. Construction access. There's no construction access proposed along Kingston. And I also want to point out, I don't think it's in the staff report, but as a part of the permitting process and in the engineering site design, the county, as a part of that permit, as a part of those plans, require a construction access to be shown. So the engineering division will approve one construction access for this site. And so there'll be some protection there for them also to assure that it will be off of Atlas as proposed currently. I was the engineer of record for the RV park that just opened up that was mentioned that had quite a few wetlands. And so I want to point out a key characteristic that we tried to maintain here. Rather than try to mitigate the wetlands in that previous project and in this one, we have designed the park around it. And so yes, that park that just opened has areas of woods and natural habitat, but they are wetlands. I want to point out that on this site here, you have probably about a quarter of an acre to the southeast that remains a wetland natural wooded area. And then if you look on the top of the page, there's almost 3 acres there that remains a wooded natural area. Same concept, same idea, protecting the wetlands rather than removing them and mitigating them. So in terms of, there was 3 people that talked about flood concerns. As previously mentioned when I presented, this project does fall under Chapter 6, but also requires a swift mode permit, environmental resource permit. This particular site is in a flood zone, and it requires a 100-year stormwater analysis. And so there was some discussion from one, I believe it was speaker number 9, that in the last flooding event, water came from the woods and came kind of onto Kingston. And if I'm misunderstanding that, I apologize, but that makes sense. So I wanted to just bring that up and state that that's part of the review process. Any stormwater that comes onto site, any floodwater that comes onto site, anything that's tidally influenced or in a hurricane event like that would have to be treated and is treated. And again, I would say that as a part of that process, we are not allowed in any way, shape, or form to discharge more than what currently is discharged. And on this particular site, because it is a 100-year storm, falls under the 100-year storm criteria, we do not propose any discharge. The pond that's between us and DOT, they currently do have a discharge, and that's the pipe that has been discussed quite a few times as people are presented. We are not proposing a discharge and wouldn't propose a discharge. Traffic came up a few times. Again, it's in the staff report, but that would fall under DOT's requirements and guidelines, and we would have to seek their permission and submit a complete permit application for that with a traffic study, and that requirement is, again, also stipulated in the staff report. I would also like to note that I could be off by 1. I don't think it would be more than that, but about 80 to 85% of the speakers weren't necessarily against the project. Their concerns were trespassing, their concerns were privacy and protecting their privacy and what they have along Kingston Court. And if the board would see fit, I think that that 35-foot natural buffer remain and perhaps even a wall or a 6-foot vinyl fence, something like that would go a long way to, I think, alleviate some of their concerns. And we would be willing to add that as a condition, should you guys see fit to approve. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Michael. At this time, I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting. Will be shut down. We're going to bring the discussion back to the board for further discussions.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Worthington.
thank you. First, I want to address Mr. King.
I'm sure they want to hear everything you have to say.
Okay. Denise.
It's been there the whole time.
Mr. King, you came up here and you asked us, how could we do this? I just wanted to kind of work through this process with you so you could understand that what happens is an applicant that owns the property, they make an application to the county, and we're the first step in this process. And we'll hear all sides of the application. We listen to the applicant, the staff presentation, and we listen to each and every one of you. And then the decision comes back to this board. And all we do is make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, where this hearing will take place again. And they will make the final decision. And based on that, and based on what I've heard from all the parties today, I would recommend denial of this application to the County Commission. I think the project is too intense. It's incompatible with this area. And I know that, Michael, you've made some concessions here to the neighbors, and maybe that'll get worked out for the next hearing. But for me today, I would deny it. And I would say that I disagree with Andy, Michael. I don't think Stillwater Preserve is an eyesore. I agree with Mr. Carlano. I think it's actually a pretty nice development. And I want to thank Mayor Bob for protecting his neighborhood. And also Miss Petty for picking up all the trash and litter along the roadways. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Worthington. Anyone else? I'll just step in and say I would also not be inclined to approve this. You got 13 people that came in with very valuable reasons why we should deny this. We have the environmental concerns. One of my concerns was brought up by one of the speakers about the DRA being on the north side of the property, nothing on the south side. The water flow didn't make any sense to me. So that was one of my concerns. So I would not be in approval. I definitely would deny this.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Scherer.
I think we find ourselves with a situation that this applicant is conforming with the LDC in terms of its requirements. But we have a category called compatibility, which is a judgment call. And the compatibility perspective is looking at how does it fit to the community? What is the impact on the community? Here we have a unique, I think a unique situation. We're at the headwaters of the Homosassa River, or Halls River, I'm sorry. You know, we don't have the right to assume that no one will ever build near us. Unfortunately, that right doesn't exist. However, it does have to comply with the, with the LDC and with the comprehensive plan. I don't see this being a good fit. 196 sites, arguably a couple people per site. The amenity location compared to where it is in the neighborhood. The zero runoff, I understand sheet flow, I understand storm water. Zero runoff in a 100-year, I'd suggest that our 100-year guidelines may be changing in the future with what we're currently encountering. So I will not be supporting this at this time, even though I do believe it's well thought out. I think in many respects it does comply. I just don't feel it's compatible with the local area.
Thank you, Commissioner Scherer.
Mr. Scherer, there's also a legal definition for compatibility, which I am often reminded by the county attorney, so it's not just subjective.
It certainly is, but many aspects of that come down to, does it fit?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Commissioner Stone.
Thank you.
We're not done yet.
It's unfortunate that this RV park is following the current trend, at least around here, of clear cutting every space within inside the park. Loss of a couple of RV spots could put woods all through or trees all through the parking area where the RVs are and make it a whole lot nicer. I don't think enough attention has been given to the spring that was discussed on the lower southeast corner. I don't think the traffic, I was impressed with the thought of fifth wheels making a U-turn out on the Atlas Road. And also, I don't think the lighting has been addressed. There was a good attempt to make a barrier across between the other folks on the south side of the property, which probably needs to be expanded. So I will not be supporting this change.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Worthington.
for the purpose of a motion, the Planning and Development Commission finds application number CPA/AA/PUD-2024-00014, is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Inconsistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and the Citrus County Land Development Code, and that this board recommends denial of the application to the Board of County Commissioners based upon the evidence and testimony presented and the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition.
We got a first by Commissioner Worthington, a second by Commissioner Royce. Any further discussions? All in favor to oppose, say aye.
Aye.
Any to approve? Motion is denied.
And Mr. Chair,
The motion is
Oh,
approved.
motion's approved.
Motion for denial is
Application was
approved.
denied. My apologies.
Mr. Chair, this is scheduled to be discussed by the Board of County Commissioners on December 10th at 5:10 PM.
Thank you. We're going to take a short 10-minute recess. We'll adjourn back at 11:30.
What are they doing in the
Long time ago.
residential?
Notwithstanding the black and white, it looks great. Oh, no. You're right on the water. Of course, you're on the water closer than you are now, but I mean,
Sorry.
it looks great.
But it gets,
Good memories.
This is cold. Welcome back. Thank you. Now it's time for CPA AAPUD-2024-00022. Green for business for Citrus County. We can get the applicant come forward as we get the introductions from staff.
This request is to change the future land use and the LDC Atlas from Transportation, Communications, Utilities District to General Commercial District with a planned unit development for some light industrial and governmental uses in the coastal high hazard area. Aerial view of the subject property. View of the site from State Road 44. Looking east on State Road 44. Looking west on State Road 44. Looking across State Road 44. The proposed land use request. And the master plan as submitted by the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Jim Green. I'm here on behalf of the Business Center for Citrus County. We operate the core business center at 203 East Dampier Street in downtown Inverness. Our organization's purpose is to provide assistance to incoming as well as existing small businesses in Citrus County. We help them with their business plan, with marketing and all those kinds of things. We'd actually thought we might have a business incubator or accelerator, and we received a grant from Duke Energy to do a study about how we could best serve the community. One of the recommendations that came out of that study was that we open a makerspace. We had to do a little research to find out what that was, to be honest with you. And what we found out is that a makerspace is a place where people go to make things. It is a membership organization. I visited several of them. We looked at a lot of facilities in the area, and we found this county-owned building that is underutilized and has been there for a long time. We have executed a lease with the county for approximately 2/3 of the building to be used as a makerspace. Now, what's a makerspace? It's where people go to make things. It will be a membership organization. Pay probably, we don't know for sure, about $50 a month to be a member. Probably we'll give a discount for an annual membership. It will include a room with embroidery equipment so people can learn how to do embroidery like this on their, for things that they want to make or sell. A laser cutting and etching, people make name tags and labels like you have in front of you. We'll have 3D printers. We'll have an electronics assembly and disassembly area. 2 of our people are working with the robotics club at the high schools so that we can have electronics equipment and training and so forth to teach them soldering and things like that on site. We'll have a full wood shop that will be in the larger bay of the area. The county will still operate their sandbagging operation from the grounds, and the back third of the building, approximately 30 by 38, will still be the county's property. They will have access to that through the personnel door on the east side of the building. Our members will come in through a controlled access on the front door. We've agreed in our lease with the county that if they declare a situation where they need to disperse sandbags for weather a situation, we will close and we will vacate the property completely until they give us an all clear. We can simply lock the front door with a key. None of our members will have a key. They'll only have a key fob to open the electronic door, so it's not a problem with that. We will install fire extinguishers as required. We will install exit signs where required. We'll install handicap parking signs as required. We'll stripe the parking lot as required. We're going to probably clean the thing up a little bit, make it look a little better on the outside, to be real honest with you, but all of that will have to get approved by the county. Anything we decide to do, we'll submit to them for their approval. We will put it in our membership agreement that the members understand that in the event of a weather event where they're going to distribute sandbags, we're closed. They cannot use the property for any reason. We may be open 24/7, we're not sure, but that'll be using access control key that we can control. We can turn that off and simply use a key that nobody will have a key to. The county will have 24/7 access to the building anytime they need it with their key on the personnel door on the east side of the building. They'll have access to the restrooms in our part of the building that they can use. We're going to have a dumpster or some kind of a trash receptacle there. They can use that. We're going to be the best cohabitants that they could have, the best tenants that they could have, because we want to be successful. We want to put something in place that the county, that our business community can be proud of, and that's what we're here for. Thank you.
All right. Staff have any questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We get the staff come forward with her presentation.
Good morning. I had to check. I wasn't sure what time.
Is it? The clock, oh, the clock.
Yeah, that one's still on the old time. This application is being requested to change the subject property from the telecommunications, transportation, communications, and utilities land use to the general commercial district and establish a planned unit development to allow for the makerspace as described by Mr. Green. Specifically, it would allow for some light industrial type uses and government uses. So the makerspace, I'm getting ahead of myself. Here you can see the property is currently TCU. They are requesting to change it back to general commercial, so you can see there is quite a bit of general commercial in the surrounding area right now. And so here's the site plan, so you can see the entire property on the left and zoom in of the building itself on the right. As Mr. Green stated, they have a lease to use approximately 2/3 of the building for this proposed makerspace use, and Citrus County will retain use of the remaining approximately a third. So the makerspace itself, the uses that were indicated in the application that was provided are a woodworking shop, laser etching and cutting shop, 3D printers, sewing and embroidery, and electronics assembly and disassembly. And as Mr. Green stated, it is proposed to be a membership-based business that's open 24/7 for people to come in and learn how to use these types of machines and equipment technology. So really the only concern that staff had with this was maintaining the county's interest in this site and this building, as Public Works has indicated that they do still need this property and they do still need this building. And so the applicant has made has proposed some language for that. I believe it's in the lease that was approved, and we have some conditions for it that in the event that the county does need this site for sandbags and storm events and stuff like that, that they will vacate the property. But other than that, the land use is compatible with the surrounding area, and all the findings are positive.
Thank you. Does the applicant have any questions for staff?
No, sir, thank you.
Does the board have any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Worthington.
Just one thing, Joe. I didn't realize this was in the coastal high hazard area. I understand those maps are developed, but this did not flood in the last storms.
I don't know the answer to that. Not that I've heard.
Well, is the county would they be in the habit of putting their sandbag location on a property that flooded?
I think it's a loading question. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't think so, okay. And has the applicant satisfied whatever the concerns were that you had with the language that he's said about the lock?
Yes, so again, we just wanted to maintain the county's interest in this, and with the way the lease was written, although I'm not real familiar with it, we did add some conditions into this, so it seems that can be maintained based on the conditions and what's in the lease.
Okay, thanks.
Joe, I have a question. If it's TCU, now we're going to change it back to GNC what it is originally. With the county still using that site as the sandbag site, is sandbagging at that use allowed in the GNC?
Yes, as it's a governmental use, and so government uses are allowed in general commercial.
In the PUD.
And it has, yes, and it has a master plan specifying that.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? All right. None? Thank you, Joe. At this time, the public portion of the meeting will now be open. If there's anyone present who would like to speak on this application, please come forward to the podium. As a reminder, individuals have 3 minutes and organizations have 5 minutes. When speaking on this application, please address the board. If you have any documentation that you would want to be entered into the record, please provide a copy to the recording secretary. Anyone? Anyone? No one. At this time, I'm going to close the public portion of the hearing down and bring the discussion back to the board.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Worthington.
This is such a great project led by a wonderful organization, supported by our Board of County Commissioners, and I also recommend that they allow this change so that these folks can get underway and help people grow their businesses and learn how to do new things and make new things. So I'm just going to throw this motion out there since it's been a long day, and then we'll see how it goes. The Planning and Development Commission finds application number CPA/AA/PUD-2024-00022 consistent with the Citrus County Comprehensive Plan and the Citrus County Land Development Code, and that this board recommends approval with conditions of the application to the Board of County Commissioners based upon the evidence and testimony presented and the staff report and conclusions regarding this petition.
We got a first by Commissioner Worthington and a second by Commissioner Stone. Any further discussions? All approval? No, it's been a long day. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, this actually is scheduled for the County Commission on December 10th, right now at 5:20.
All right, is there any staff?
Only
announcements?
your next meeting on November 21st has 3 items. There's 2 conditional uses and a PUD amendment. You know, those take some time, so November 21st, it won't be like today, but
really?
3 applications.
I'm not
All
coming.
right. Thank you. I only have one thing to add. I just want to say
This is my birthday, so I'm not coming.
the thing I want to add is that, I want to congratulate Holly Davis for continuing to be the county commissioners and welcome Janet to the commission thing. And I do really care a lot for Ruth, and I would just wish her the absolute very best. And I want to thank her for her service to the county and her dedication, and that there's still hundreds of people out there that's supporting behind you for the animal center. So please don't give up on that, Ruth. Anything else? All right.
See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. Meeting adjourned.